Hello everyone, welcome back. This time we are looking at a deadly aviation emergency that began just seconds after takeoff in Boca Raton, Florida. On April 11th, 2025, a Cessna 310R departed Boca Raton Airport heading for Tallahassee. At first it looked like a normal departure, but moments later the crew contacted air traffic control with a serious problem. They said the aircraft had a rudder issue. And then came the part that made this emergency so unusual. The pilot said they could only make left turns. For several minutes, the airplane stayed low over the city, circling again and again, while the crew tried to keep it flying with very little altitude and very few options. Witness videos later showed the aircraft yawing left at low altitude, while the sound was still consistent with both engines running. So this was not a simple engine failure after takeoff. This was a much more complex control emergency. The aircraft later came down near Military Trail and Glades Road. All 3 people on board were killed, and 1 person on the ground was injured. Now let's break down what is known so far, what the NTSB preliminary report says, and why this emergency became so difficult so quickly. In this breakdown, we are going to look at what is known so far from the NTSB preliminary report, what investigators said after the crash, and what witnesses captured on video. We will also look at the emergency response in the ground, including reports from fire officials after the aircraft came down near Military Trail and Glades Road. The key question is not just where the airplane crashed, it is what was happening in the air during those final minutes. Why the crew kept making left turns, why the airplane stayed low, and why the NTSB says witness videos showed a left yaw while both engines still appeared to be running.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Before we go deeper into the flight path and the NTSB report, it is important to hear how the situation was first described by emergency officials on the ground. Boca Raton Fire Rescue responded after reports of an aircraft in trouble near the airport. At that point, this was still an active emergency, not just a crash investigation. Within minutes, the aircraft came down near Military Trail and Glades Road, in a busy area with roads, traffic, fire, debris, and a person injured on the ground. Here is what Boca Raton Fire Rescue said during the press conference after the crash.
I'm here to report on the plane crash that happened in Boca Raton this morning. At approximately 10:12 a.m., our fire dispatch and police dispatch got a call for a plane in trouble. Our units responded to the Boca Raton Airport per our policies. The aircraft had apparently some mechanical issues and went down here on Military Trail. It went down. Also, there was a car on the ground. We will at this time confirm there were 3 fatalities in the aircraft, and there was 1 injury on the ground, non-life threatening. At this time, Military Trail is closed between Butts Road and Northwest 19th Street, and also the I-95 interchange in both directions is closed down. The lead agency on this call is going to be the National Transportation Safety Board. They are en route to the call right now. This is all the information that we have now. We wanted to give you a small briefing of what we know. These are the facts that we know at this time. It's obviously an active investigation. As we get more information, either the National Transportation Safety Board or the FAA will give a further update in the coming hours.
One more time, sir, on the people that were on board.
Now let's listen to what people on the ground said they saw that morning. Several witnesses were in the area as the aircraft circled low over Boca Raton. Some saw the plane before the crash. Others heard the impact and saw the fire moments later. Their accounts are important because they help show how unusual this emergency looked from the ground. A twin-engine airplane flying low, staying close to the area, and not climbing away normally. Here are the witness accounts from the scene.
Fly over, and I saw it fly over like very sharply and like very fast, like it was curving down this way. And the hotel was probably maybe like 1,000 feet from like where the plane actually had crashed. And then And then I didn't hear anything, or like any like exposure or anything. And then I got a text message saying that there was a plane crash like right by where I'm staying. And then the time and figured out. So I was like, wow, like it must have been the plane that I saw like fly over the hotel.
And what did you do afterwards?
I came out here to see like if that was the case, and then I saw like all the smoke and everything like that.
And then what happened?
And then
police and fire here
yeah,
already?
well they came within
the
seconds.
plane. I was on the second story, and I saw the plane, and it started like turning almost. It was really close to our school, and then I went to class, and then we like heard it, like we could hear it.
We heard a loud like boom, and then I texted her and I was like, did you hear that? And then the announcements came on saying that everyone needed to stay in their classrooms, and then people started posting on like their Snapchat stories of just like smoke everywhere. There was kids like leaving the class just to go see it. And then the announcements came on again, and it was like them saying, if you smell smoke, like that's fine, like that's normal. And then we started to smell it, and it just smelled like jet fuel.
One person who heard the emergency unfold was Jared Scarpato, a first-year flight student at Lynn University. He was at the airport, preparing for his final flight exam, when the emergency call came through on the university's air traffic control frequency. Scarpato later described it as a traumatic experience. Let's listen to what he said.
I'm a freshman here, so definitely traumatic experience. But yeah, no. So I was here at the flight school at the Lynn University Flight School. I'm a student here. I'm a freshman student, and so I was practicing my private pilot. I have something that's called Stage 3 today, which is basically kind of like an end of course exam. So I was getting ready, studying up. And all of a sudden, we got a call on Castle Ops, which is basically our home wave frequency for all of our airplanes, that somebody decided to report an emergency. And so there was something that was happening with the rudder. So that sounded like a stuck rudder. And, you know, that's super, super dangerous. Yeah, this guy was circling the airport. Apparently he couldn't turn right, so he was only turning left. Boca Raton is typically a left traffic pattern, so you know that's pretty typical. But what I really saw is when we all decided to go outside to try to figure out, you know, if this guy's gonna make it because he declared an emergency. He ended up going around and he was passing something called, he was on the downwind turning to base is what the aviation term is for. So he's basically almost on his final leg, so trying to come into land. Sure, yeah. No, it's all good. No, just trying to come into land. And, you know, I said to my instructor and everybody outside that he is very, very low. And he was, had to have been incredibly low. You know, he didn't look that high up in the air. It's not typically, or it's not typical to what we typically see with student pilots and other people flying in the traffic pattern. The traffic pattern altitude is supposed to be just about 1,000 feet. So he was flying over, and he looked really low, and I said that. So when he was turning his base, which is his like almost his final leg, so he's about to come in to try to land for the runway, try to say it in simple terms. We ended up losing sight of him on that final leg. And all we saw was a big explosion and a plume of smoke. All of us were incredibly shell-shocked.
Another Lynn University aviation student, 19-year-old Justin Torres, also saw the aircraft that morning. He was walking to class when he noticed the plane circling at a very low altitude. Torres said the pilot appeared to be dealing with a rudder problem. He described the situation as nerve-wracking and shocking, but said it did not change his decision to become a pilot. Let's hear what he said.
So I was walking to class, and I see this plane circling really low. And I immediately could tell something was wrong because it was at 200 feet rather than 1,000 feet, which is like normal traffic pattern altitude. So after that, I was in class. I didn't think much of it. I was in class then, and I got the notification from the instructor, the teacher, who's also the chief of the flight school, and he told us exactly what happened. So,
What were you told by your instructor?
That a multi-engine plane crashed at Boca runway 5.
When you got here to this area, what did you see?
When I first got here to this area, I went down to the hotel over there, and I saw a plane. The plane was like in pieces, a lot of cops, and there was a Prius that was like burned, and everything else was kind of blocked off. But that's all I really saw.
Being in flight school, what goes through your mind when you kind of see it come across a plane crash like this right here?
It's nerve-wracking. Like I don't want to say it's discouraging, but it's definitely nerve-wracking. And to tell my parents that, since they live 1,000 miles away, it's definitely nerve-wracking for them too, because I'm a pilot and I'm doing the same thing that they're doing. So I'm going through those same risks that they're going through. So it's a little nerve-wracking, a little shaky.
Another person caught in the middle of this was Pablo Tafur. He says he was driving to work in his white Toyota Prius when he noticed the aircraft circling low overhead. Moments later, the plane came down right in front of him. Tafur drove through burning debris and later said he was grateful to be alive. His account shows how close this crash came to people on the ground. Let's listen to what he said.
And plane circled low, kept going. Next thing I know, I hear the engine right on top of me. Hits the road in front of my car, crash into it, go into the flames, slam on the brakes, tried steering, hit a tree in the curb, and dropped into fire.
You drove into the flames?
Yes. Yeah. Couldn't avoid it. Brakes locked up, hit a tree, and then next thing I know, the car's on fire. It's hot inside. Tried the passenger door, couldn't get out. Driver's door, opened it up, ran through the flames, and then got out.
Later that evening, NTSB investigator Kurt Gibson gave another important detail. He said the data indicated the airplane was in the air for roughly 8 to 10 minutes from takeoff to the crash. That means this was not an emergency that ended instantly after liftoff. For several minutes, the crew was still airborne, still trying to manage the aircraft, and still dealing with a control problem that kept them locked into repeated left turns. That timeline is important because it helps explain why so many witnesses saw the airplane circling low before it finally came down.
Started at about 10:15 this morning from the Boca Raton Airport and had a destination of Tallahassee International Airport. There are 3 people on board. All were fatally injured. And there is one injury in a car on a roadway. I do not know the condition at this time of that person. Our mission at the NTSB is to figure out what happened, why it happened, and what we can do to prevent this from happening again. Right now I'm in the preliminary stages of the on-scene, which I expect to take a couple of days. After which, the airplane will be recovered to a secure facility where the investigation will continue. Right now I'm just collecting perishable data that might get lost during the recovery process, interviewing witnesses, and collecting ATC data. Back in the NTC headquarters, we've got ATC experts, as well as the drone team came out here to photo document the scene, and the investigation will continue well after the on-scene portion. In about 30 days, I'm going to release a preliminary report, which will have just the preliminary factual information that we have at that time. In about 12 to 24 months, a final report will be released that will have the probable cause, the analysis, as well as all factual information provided. If there are any witnesses to the accident, or if anybody in this local area has a Ring camera or some other type of doorbell camera that might have caught the accident on their camera, or at least caught the audio, I ask that you contact witness@ntsb.gov. Again, that's witness@ntsb.gov. We'd really appreciate it. At this time, I'll take a couple of questions. Please say your name and who you're affiliated with.
Larry, CBS News Miami. What do you know about the mechanical failure, and did the pilot communicate to air traffic control of difficulty turning in one specific direction?
I'm not aware of any mechanical failure at this time. We're just collecting the initial data right now. I do know he was in contact with ATC, and that'll be part of my investigation.
When you say you're collecting perishable data, what does that mean?
Perishable data, I'm collecting prop strikes, anything on the ground, ground strikes, anything that the airplane might have hit beforehand. Witnesses, after a time, they'll start losing their memory or whatnot, and we lose track of them, that type of data.
So at this point, the most important thing is to separate what is known from what is still under investigation. The NTSB has released a preliminary report, but the final cause has not yet been determined. What we do know is that this was not a normal engine failure story. Witness videos showed the airplane yawing left at low altitude, while the sound was still consistent with both engines running. The crew reported a rudder problem, and they told air traffic control they could only make left turns. For roughly 8 to 10 minutes, they stayed in the air, circling low over Boca Raton, trying to manage a control problem that gave them very few options. That is what makes this accident so difficult to watch and so important to understand. The airplane was still flying. The crew was still fighting for control. But with low altitude, repeated left turns, and a serious directional control issue, the margin for recovery kept getting smaller. Until the final report is released, we should not guess the exact cause, but the preliminary information already shows how quickly a flight can turn into a complex emergency, and how little time and space pilots may have when a control problem happens right after takeoff. What do you think was the most critical part of this accident? Was it the reported rudder problem? The low altitude? The repeated left turns? Or the fact that the aircraft was flying over a busy area, with very little room for a safe outcome? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more aviation breakdowns based on official reports, witness accounts, and verified information, make sure to subscribe and follow the next videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Oh my God.